Good day, everyone. Welcome to our last lesson in General Zoology course. Today, we'll explore how animals are classified, how they are related by evolution, and how we can trace their origins. Our topic is animal taxonomy, phylogeny, and organization. And we'll also touch on the simplest animal-like organisms, the protozoa. By the end of this session, you should understand how scientists group animals, name them properly, and analyze their evolutionary relationships. Let's begin with the basic concept, systematics or taxonomy. This is the study of different kinds of organisms and their evolutionary relationships. In simple terms, taxonomy helps us identify, name, and classify organisms, while systematics connects the classification to evolution. When new species are discovered, scientists describe them and organize them into groups called taxa, based on how closely they are related evolutionarily. Another key term here is phylogeny, which means the evolutionary history of a group of organisms. We usually represent phylogeny using tree diagrams that show common ancestors and how species branch out over time. On the right is the taxonomic category of humans versus a dog. For the taxon of the human and the domestic dog, we have the domain under Eukarya for both, the kingdom is Animalia for both, the phylum is Chordata for both, the class is Mammalia for both, and they have diverged or separated in the order. The order for human is primates, while for the dog is Carnivora. For the family, they have Hominidae for humans and Canidae for the domestic dog. While for the genus is Homo for humans, Canis for the domestic dog. And lastly, the species is Homo sapiens for humans and Canis lupus for the domestic dog. Now that we know why we classify animals, let's look at how we name them. Nomenclature is a system of naming organisms. We use the binomial system developed by Linnaeus. This gives each species a unique two-part name, the genus and the species. For example, humans are called Homo sapiens. Notice that Homo begins with a capital letter. Sapiens starts with a lowercase and the whole name is italicized or underlined. This universal system avoids confusion caused by common name. For instance, different countries may have different names for the same animal, but the scientific name remains the same everywhere. The main goal of animal systematics is to group animals based on their evolutionary relationships. Scientists aim to create groups that accurately reflect how species evolved from common ancestors. We call such groups monophyletic, meaning they include one common ancestor and all its descendants. Sometimes we encounter polyphyletic groups. These are incorrect because they include species from different ancestors. There are also paraphyletic groups that leave out some descendants, which means our knowledge is still incomplete and needs clarification. One major modern approach to systematics is cladistics, or phylogenetic systematics. The goal here is to build hypotheses about evolutionary relationships among organisms based on shared characteristics. Scientists called cladists use similarities or homologies that evolved recently to figure out relationships. They focus on identifying whether a trait is ancestral or derived. Now let us unpack some key terms using cladistics. Traits inherited from a distant ancestor are called ancestral character states or plesiomorphies. When these ancestral traits are shared by several groups, we call them symplecomorphies. But these don't help much in showing relationships within the group. Traits that appeared more recently are called derived character states or apomorphies. When several species share these derived traits, we call them synapomorphies, and they are very useful to determining evolutionary relationships. To identify what's ancestral or derived within the group, scientists will have to compare them with an outgroup, a related organism not included in the main study group. This diagram shows a cladogram, which is basically a family tree of species. It visually represents how different groups such as vertebrates are related through common ancestors. Each branching point or node represent a divergence, where one ancestral species gave rise to two or more descendant species. The closer two groups are on the tree, the more recently they shared a common ancestor or evolution. Finally, let's touch briefly on animal symmetry, an important aspect of animal organization. Symmetry would describe how an organism's body are arranged around a central point or an axis. For example, humans and many animals have bilateral symmetry, meaning the left and right sides mirror each other. Some organisms like jellyfish have radial symmetry, where one body part are arranged around a central axis. Symmetry gives us clues about how animals move, feed, and evolve structurally, while animals that don't have particular central axis or a point are called asymmetrical animals. Next, we have the terms of directions. First, aboral versus oral. When we say aboral, this is the end opposite of the mouth of a radially symmetrical animal, while the oral, which is the end containing the mouth of a radially symmetrical animal. Anterior versus posterior. The anterior is the head end, usually the end of a bilateral animal that meets its environment, while posterior is a tail end. Caudal versus cephalic. Caudal is going towards the tail, while cephalic going towards the head. Distal versus proximal. Distal is away from the point of attachment of a structure on the body, while proximal towards the point of attachment of a structure on the body. Dorsal versus ventral. Dorsal, the back of an animal, usually the upper surface, synonymous with posterior for animals that walk upright or on two legs, while ventral, the belly of an animal, usually the lower surface, synonymous with anterior for animals that walk upright or on two legs. Inferior versus superior. Inferior, below a point of reference. Example, the mouth is inferior to the nose in humans. Superior, above a point of reference. Example, the neck is superior to the chest and even on the heart. Lateral versus medial. Lateral, away from the plane that divides a bilateral animal into mirror images, while medial or median, on or near the plane that divides a bilateral animal into mirror images.